everybody, welcome back to Jessica's Reading Room. My name is Kim and we are here for our first ever book to film comparison. Now, I did give my thoughts all the way back when Ready Player One came out. I had just finished reading the book and then I went to go watch the movie. However, that was very informal, like just kind of did a Facebook Live video. I just kind of talked about how I felt about it because I had a lot of really strong feelings about it, but we decided to go ahead and try this as an official video for Jessica's Reading Room. So we're going to see how this goes, and if you guys like it, make sure you tell us all about it down in the comments. Let us know what other book to film adaptations you would love to talk about. What are your favorites? What are your not so favorites? Because come on, as book nerds, we all totally have opinions on movies that originally started as books and how they all screw them up, because that's just what Hollywood does. I don't know why, it's just the way it is. So for our first ever book to film comparison video, we are going to be talking about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Ivan and I just recently watched the Netflix original The Haunting of Hill House TV show. And so when I decided to read the book, we thought, what a great idea. Let's talk about the comparisons, the comparisons. Oh boy, the comparison for the book and the film and oh my gosh, oh boy, guys, we are starting this out. Oh boy, here we go. The similarities, the differences, etc., and my thoughts and opinions on the TV show versus the book. So I will start out with saying that I did watch The Haunting of Hill House before I read the book. Now, I know this is kind of sacrilege when it comes to us book nerds, but I have actually decided that from now on, I think I am going to watch the movie or TV show first before I actually read the book. Now, if I've already read the book and a TV show or a movie comes out, well, that's one thing. But if I haven't read the book yet, I think I'm going to start out with the film, so then I can watch the film and enjoy it and then come back to the book and then get really angry at how they slaughtered the book and they tore it all apart and etc., etc. But in this case, I did watch The Haunting of Hill House TV show before I read the book. Now, as you all know, Ivan and I are crazy weirdo people. We love horror. I mean, for crying out loud, one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just the way I am. So when Ivan's brother and sister-in-law said, hey, you guys really need to watch The Haunting of Hill House, we were both like, ooh, horror, yes, let's watch it. So we decided to watch it. We watched the entire series in 2 days, and yes, I will admit, we did watch them at night. Ivan was about ready to go back to work, so we were kind of on, a super late night type schedule, and we ended up watching it very late into the night in the dark, which was probably not the smartest thing ever to do, but we did it. So we watched all 10 episodes. They're all around 45 minutes to an hour per episode, and I have to say that I actually loved the TV show. I mean, holy cow. And what's interesting about it is because The Haunting of Hill House, the book, is definitely considered very classic horror. Shirley Jackson is a horror writer. And so we just kind of went into the TV show saying, okay, well, we got a horror show. Great, this is awesome. But what's interesting about the TV show, I'm going to put this down while I talk. Anyway, what's interesting about the TV show is the fact that it's not actually, I wouldn't call it horror. There are a lot of very scary elements in it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there were some places where, we jumped so hard. Ivan screamed at one point. I mean, I'll admit that I also screamed, but he yelled really loudly. So, I mean, there are definitely scary portions to the TV show, and I mean, there are some big jump scares included in this show, okay? However, I would not actually call it horror as a whole. It's actually far more mystery, thriller, and even a little bit of drama, which I wasn't expecting at all. But by the time it was over, I mean, you get to know the Crane family who move into Hill House because they are house flippers. That's what they do. They buy houses, they fix them up, and then they flip them and make a profit. That's what they do. And you spend 10 episodes getting to know this family. At the very first 5 episodes, there's 1 episode per kid. And so each episode, you learn a little more, not just about the individual characters, but you actually learn a little bit more about the family's story and what Hill House actually is. And we got so emotionally invested in this family. And the whole time you're sitting there going, okay, so maybe in the next episode, we'll find out a little bit more about what happened. We'll find out what's going on. And the timeline where you learn each episode truly does build on the one before it. In some places, there is a lot of repetition to where you have, the 2 kids, you see, one from, in the one episode, you see that from the perspective of Stephen, but then in the next episode, you see the exact same scene from the perspective of Luke. And so while there is some repetition happening, it just gives you more information as you go. So by the time you're done with each episode, it's not, oh my gosh, I wish they'd quit repeating scenes. It's, okay, now that makes sense. Okay, I get it. So the pacing is really, really nice. And what's interesting is that there are it's kind of a combination between slow burn and jump scare, because the slow burn kind of it really does last through all 10 episodes. And even within the episodes, yes, there are, several jump scares that honestly, even thinking about them now makes me want to oh my gosh, oh, that was scary. But then even within the episodes themselves, there's a slow burn where you feel a tension building. And, you sit there and the whole time you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Oh, I wonder if it's going to happen there. Oh, okay, nothing happens. Oh, but definitely something's going to happen. And that's how the whole thing is. And you've got it combined with the mystery. You've got all the thriller stuff in it, plus the family drama, because there is a lot of family drama. The Crane family, they're crazy is what they are. But you learn so much about them, and you get so invested that you want to find out what happened. You want to get to know them even more. And one thing that the TV show did so amazingly is the casting. I mean, we're talking about people that I had never heard of before in my life. All right. Of the entire TV show in the series, in this season, there were only 4 people that I recognized. And even then I had to go looking them up because I was like, I recognize that person, but I don't know where they're from. And all the rest of them, you have no idea who these actors and actresses are. But by the time you're done, you actually go and look at all their filmography and want to go back and watch the stuff that they were in before, because they're amazing. They are fantastic, and they fit each character so perfectly. And I'll talk about the differences between the TV show and the book in a second, and you'll get it. But, the casting is just, honestly, it is so brilliant. And I will admit to you, I have no problem admitting to you that I think I do have a new celebrity crush. We have moved on from Henry Cavill, whom I love with all my heart, even to this day. That'll never change. But in this TV show, we have a guy named Oliver Jackson Cohen. He plays Luke Crane. He is also in the Dracula TV show with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, which is where I saw him before. Rhys-Meyers? Yes. For some reason, I was thinking about, isn't Gimli's last name, isn't he something Rhys Davies? I don't know. Anyways, I will admit he is totally my new celebrity crush. He's fantastic. Oh my gosh, he acts his heart out in this TV show. He plays Luke Crane, who grows up to be a heroin addict. And through the entire series, you see him battling his addiction, trying to get clean, falling back into it, etc., etc. And oh my gosh, Oh boy. And plus the lady, and this is totally going to be super immature for me, but this is the only, I mean, that's just what I do. The mom from Spy Kids is actually the mother in The Haunting of Hill House. And she was also so brilliant. Oh my gosh. And I don't know who did the costuming and hair, all the designing, character design for that show, but they were spot on, considering that there are two main settings. I mean, you've got the 90s Hill House, and then you have present day. Everything back in the 90s, like there are hints of 90s, but yet you don't sit there and think, oh wow, that, yeah, we should never do that ever again. No thank you, 1990s. You stay back in the last century, thank you. But everything was just so beautiful, and I absolutely fell in love with Hill House. I mean, I'm the person where every time they walk into a new room or they hear something creepy about the house, I just kind of looked over at Ivan and I was like, can we go buy that house? Can we go buy Hill House? That would be really, really fantastic if we could do that. And all the creepy stuff, it just kind of fed into the atmosphere, and the house itself is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. And everything about that TV show is just, and plus, I don't think I'm actually spoiling anything by saying this, because we had people tell us this too. But in each episode, they actually have ghosts hidden in the background kind of throughout the episode. The very first episode, because it starts out with a bang. And I remember we were sitting there watching it, and we kind of both saw the ghost in the background at exactly the same time. We both go, oh, look, do you see that? Do you see that? And then we just kind of, oh, that's creepy. Oh my gosh, oh, this is going to be a good TV show. Here we go. Yes. But I ended up watching it a second time when Jessica said that maybe we could go ahead and do this comparison. So I went through the series again. Yes, all by myself, and yes, in the dark, which was probably not my best idea that I have ever had. I know I said that about watching it with Ivan, and in the dark with him. Yeah, well, watching it by myself, that was not such a great idea, because there are so many creepy elements. And I ended up having to sleep with the light on last night. That's just the way I am, okay? I can't help it. This is just how it is. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the ghosts in each episode. And so I ended up watching each episode and seeing if I could identify all these secret ghosts that were all in the background. And I saw stuff that, watching it through the first time, I didn't see. And I ended up like pausing it and taking, screenshots with my phone and sending it off to Ivan and be like, oh my gosh, we totally missed this the first time. And it just, oh my gosh. I mean, I would definitely say that if you like horror, you should definitely watch it. However, if you're not a big horror person, don't let that stop you from watching Hill House, because while it is definitely creepy and it certainly has its scary elements, there's so much more to it. And it really is fantastic. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so then we go to the book. I decided that after we watched through the show the first time, I said, you know what? I have to read it. I mean, I read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson all the way back when I was in high school. I mean, my mom, it cracks me up how my mom has turned into like this skittish, crazy person. She's terrified of The Exorcist. All you got to do is say The Exorcist in front of her and she like loses her mind. But for some reason, she thinks that The Lottery is like the worst ever story to ever be written. And I'm like, honestly, if you think that's bad, I could give you some stuff where you listen. I could show you some stuff, okay? But anyway, so I had already read Shirley Jackson, but I had never read The Haunting of Hill House. And I said, you know what? I have to read it. I found this absolutely gorgeous edition at Books A Million, and it's so beautiful, and it's textured, and it's lovely. Okay, all right. Anyway, so I read it. And I will say this. I will go ahead and say right from the very beginning, and please don't get upset with me. But I will say that as a whole, I do believe I liked the TV show a little better than I liked the book. That is not in any way saying that there's anything wrong with the book. That is not the case at all. I believe I rated it 4 stars. This book, it's brilliant. I mean, for a classic, I ended up not being able to put it down. And I just as a story, I will say that I liked the TV show a little better than I liked the book. Now, what I will say, and this hopefully this will save me from your wrath. The book and the TV show were so incredibly different that I actually don't really have any problem saying I prefer the TV show to the story in the book. What was interesting and what I actually really did like about it is that the TV show actually took a lot of the same circumstances, the same elements that were in Shirley Jackson's original work, and took them and twisted them into a completely different story. And in some cases, I mean, a story that I actually preferred. And I mean, there's so many things because, after I read the book pretty much right after we finished watching the show, and then I went back and rewatched the show, there were so many things that in the first viewing, I didn't even realize were original to the book that Flanagan took and made it completely, the director, I believe his name was Flanagan, and took it and made it completely his own. And the stories are so different because in Shirley Jackson's original work, there is no house flipping. The Crane family were the ones who built the house originally. Hugh Crane only had 2 daughters. The book actually gave a little more information on the origins of the house. And there are elements that I liked better in the book than I liked in the TV show. And one of them is that I did learn far more about Hill House itself from the book. You guys know me. I'm the one who, if you don't give me all the information, I don't like questions, okay? I'm a historian. I like knowing every little teeny tiny little detail. I want to know who built the house. Why was it built? What's wrong with it? Why is there something wrong with it? What is going on? And the book definitely gives far more information on the origins of Hill House. The fact that Hugh Crane built it, he left it to his 2 daughters. There was a lot of legal issues going on when the first daughter died. The little girl who had been taking care of her while she was sick claimed that she had given it to her, which then, gives it to the present owners, etc., etc. The TV show is definitely more of a family story, whereas the book is far more a house story, if that makes any kind of sense. And I do believe that actually in this case, it would be best to watch the TV show and then read the book, because they do very much complement each other. And, while there are similarities, because there is a Luke in the book. He's actually one of the assistants coming to help Dr. Montague figure out what's going on, what is paranormal about Hill House, what's wrong with Hill House. Whereas in the TV show, he's a member of the Crane family. Nell, who in Hill House is, the baby of the family, the one that, they're all afraid is going to have this breakdown, is actually who I consider to be the main character of the book, who is in no way related to the Crane family whatsoever, but her fates in both the TV show and the book is basically the same. And what I did really, really like about the TV show is that they did create completely different characters. The mother, Liv Crane, is not really in the book at all. One of the sisters, they called her Shirley, which I can only assume, again, pardon me, Captain Obvious, is that they actually named her after Shirley Jackson, the author of the original Haunting of Hill House. again, they're so different and they're separate to where I don't have to sit and say, oh, well, I definitely liked the characters in the TV show better. Because the problem is that while they share names, they don't really share anything else. And that's what's making me okay with separate TV show versus separate book, is the fact that it was so different. It was far more of an homage to the original book as opposed to a complete retelling of the book. And I mean, I'm totally okay with that. I'm good with it. You know, unlike other movies that they make, you know, book adaptations or whatever, and they keep the same storyline, but then they change all the really good stuff about it. It's like, really? I mean, why don't you just make a completely different story? And that's exactly what Netflix did. And I absolutely loved how they took oh, I'm sorry, I just kicked the chair. They took literal elements from the book, like the little cup of stars, and at one point in the TV show, it's Mrs. Dudley, the housekeeper, who says, insist on your cup of stars. When, before they force you to be like everyone else, keep your cup of stars. Insist on having your cup of stars. When in, the book, the exact quote is there. It's just Nell saying it to a little girl that she sees in a restaurant who's crying because she doesn't have her cup of stars to drink her milk with. And, in the TV show, you have Stephen Crane, one of the brothers, who ends up being a best-selling author who writes a book called The Haunting of Hill House. And in many places, in both the beginning and the end, he's actually quoting word for word from the book. And you look through, and as, you go through each episode and you see more of the house, there's statues everywhere where, in the book, one of the main things that throws them off so completely is this huge statue of Hugh Crane and his two daughters. And they're just going, oh my gosh, this is super weird. Okay, statues everywhere. Okay. All right, let's. And in one part, in the book, you have Nell and Theodora who are in, Nell's bedroom, and there's pounding on the walls all the way around. They're both cowering in bed, clinging to each other, not knowing what the heck is going on. And in the TV show, you've got Shirley and Theo, who, again, are sitting in Shirley's room, terrified because there's all this crazy knocking that just goes in a circle around the room. And so I just really appreciated how, instead of going for a literal retelling of the book, they took all of these great elements that Jackson used. Because, listen, while I was reading this book, I got so tense and anxious. Like, I really did sit there and I was going, oh, something's going to happen. Oh, something's going to happen. Oh, something's going to happen. And they took all of this all these tension building elements, and they extracted them and they twisted them into this absolutely brilliant story that has honestly nothing really to do with the book, but is still brilliant all on its own. And so, all I've got to say is, like I said, my suggestion would be to watch The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix, then sit down and read the book. And you know what? If you feel like it, then watch it again. Watch it again and try and find all of those things that you missed. Like I said, the differences were so clear and so distinct that I didn't have to sit there and go, well, do I like Theodora in the book better than I like Theodora in the TV show? But I don't have to, because they are two completely separate people. They're completely different. The things, and what's interesting is that, I definitely prefer some of the characters, because the girl who, Nell in the TV show, well, she had her failings as a character. She was incredibly well acted, but as a character, she definitely had her failings. Whereas in Hill House, Nell was, I thought she was amazing. I loved reading about her. But again, they're two completely separate entities, so I don't have to sit there and go, try and justify the fact that, well, it's okay, I like the character in the TV show better. Well, no, they're two different people. You're allowed to think of them differently. And that's, and again, so as a comparison between the book and the TV show, what is so incredibly nice is that while there are definitely similarities, there are, elements that were taken directly from the book and made into something new, into something fresh, into something brilliant. And I have this feeling that Shirley Jackson, who I believe is dead, I do believe that Shirley Jackson is dead. I could possibly be wrong, but don't quote me on that because, like I said, I don't know much about Shirley Jackson. Oh, she died in 1965. Okay, so she's been dead a long time. Anyway, I have this feeling that if Shirley Jackson was alive today and she watched the Haunting of Hill House TV show, she'd actually really, really like it. Because like I said, it took some of the best elements, it took a lot of the general ideas that were presented in the book, and it expanded and created something new. And that's why I'm totally okay with it. It's not the same as the book. I'd like to think that maybe I'm maturing as a book nerd to say that, okay, you know what? You're never going to be able to find a perfect film adaptation of a story. So you know what? Okay, fine. But there are definitely specific reasons why I'm good with it. And that is because they literally did make a completely new story. They took all the best things out of this book. They took them, they were inspired by them, and they used them really, really well. So in the case, I don't like the idea of saying that I necessarily like one over the other, because in this case, it actually is, they do complement each other very, very well. And it's definitely not a case of, the TV show is good, therefore the book was bad. If we end up doing another one of these videos, I promise you there are going to be so many where it's going to be like, oh, the book is brilliant and the movie is bad. Because we've already had those before. I mean, I'm sure you guys can easily, right now, as soon as I said it, you can think of a book that you love that they then slaughtered on film, because that's just what Hollywood does. In this case, it is definitely a situation of excellent and possibly better. I would never want to criticize this book. This book is brilliant. I loved it. I definitely plan on rereading it, and I have this feeling I'm going to learn more rereading it than I did the first time. It's just as a story where, and I will also say this, because I don't know if I mentioned this before, the TV show is definitely far more explicit in its elements. Because a lot of what happens in the book, it's all very much implied. And you guys know I'm not a subtle person. That's not what I do. I like things that, I know what's going on. It's clear. I know what's happening. Because if you leave something up to my imagination, it's probably going to be wrong. I will probably then fill in the blanks and do it incorrectly. Because that's just the way it is. Whereas when I'm watching the TV show and, oh my gosh, all of a sudden a ghost pops out and I scream really loud. Well, guess what? I knew I was supposed to scream because I knew it was a scary situation and I knew it was a ghost. There, got it done perfect. So that's also on me because I like clearer things. That's just kind of how I am, and I'm okay with it. So for our first book to film comparison video, I will say that I actually really liked both of them. Story-wise, I will admit that I do prefer the TV show. However, the book is still amazing. Everybody needs to read it. It's definitely one that even younger teens could read and still get it. It's a bit of a safer horror book, I would say, because like I said, a lot of it is implied. A lot of it, is not directly in your face. A lot of it is something that you can kind of fill in your own imagination, and you can either make it as scary or as not scary as you like. So I will say that as a adaptation of a book, I love the TV show. It was brilliant. They are going to be doing a second season. It is going to be The Haunting of Bly Manor by Henry James, based on the stories of Henry James, which I will admit, I don't think I've read too much of Henry James, but I'm going to have to. I think I will go ahead and wait for the TV show to come out and then actually read it, because there you go. Maybe they'll do a Stonehurst Asylum like in Edgar Allan Poe. Oh my gosh, call Netflix. Call Netflix and tell them that. I'd be totally good with it. That's what they need to do. Brilliant idea. See? They need to have book nerds on their staff. Do any of these studios have book nerds on their staff that, like, in the middle of filming, they'll yell cut because they slaughtered the book too much? Is that a thing? Because I would volunteer for that job. Boom. All right, so there is our first book to film comparison. I hope you guys liked it. If you want to hear more about, for us to do more of these videos, let us know down in the comments. Tell us any books and corresponding films / TV shows that you would like to hear about, and we will try to accommodate. Make sure you tell us your favorite and your least favorite book to movie, book to film, book to TV show adaptations. We'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't seen The Haunting of Hill House, make sure you go watch it, and make sure you read The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. It's brilliant. Okay, everybody. Bye.